Hello and welcome back to Popcorn and Beers, where some use tomatoes and others use thumbs. We use the stuff that gets you drunk. And as you can see, poor Jordan is not feeling free on Sunday morning. He is at work again. It's okay. It's,
Ooh.
it's it's weird that he had all summer off of work on Sundays, and right when football season starts, he's right back to work. I
Isn't that
feel
funny how
bad for
that
you,
works
man.
out? Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, you know what? It could be worse. You could be living in 1920 in Osage.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So that brings us, that was a seamless transition, huh? That's what they
that
call
was
that.
good. Yeah.
Right into our butter on top, which was Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. And I know what I thought. I kind of gave a slight opinion. If you follow us on TikTok at TheSadFan, at TheSadFan 12, pardon me, on TikTok, I gave a slight opinion. But what did you think? I'll let you lead, and then I'll go with what I think.
I think it's one of those stories that's kind of hard to tell. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
nobody is going to be, well, I don't want to say nobody will be satisfied, but, the people that are being affected in this story, the Osage
Mm-hmm.
natives, it's hard to tell the story in a Hollywood manner that you know because you have to have the character arcs, and it can't just be like a Hollywood's got to do their narratives and all that. So you know
Absolutely.
yeah, it didn't pay full respects and attention to the complete narratives of Osage and all that.
Yeah.
um but as far as performances, Leonardo DiCaprio shined. Thought he was really good.
You think it's
Brent
number two? Are you got an early prediction, or do you think what's his name? Golly, why did his name just run away from me? From Oppenheimer, uh,
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy. It's a two-horse race right now, I think.
Yeah. God, I want to say I'll probably give it to Cillian Murphy,
Okay.
but I don't
Poor
know.
Leo.
Yeah. What was up with Brendan Fraser?
Oh gosh, you
He
just stole
was
one of my notes.
that was what do we call all foam?
I put a tad overacting. From
Yeah.
I was being like
We
sarcastic.
call on him to have a meeting with us in the back room.
Yeah, I was. It was. I don't know. I mean, like, do we blame Martin Scorsese for that, or do we blame Brent? Because that was hard to watch. Like, that kind of turned me a little bit on a movie I really enjoyed. But that part, it was very brief. And he did do better in the backroom meeting. The acting was much better from Brendan Fraser in the backroom meeting,
A little
but
bit better, but still bad.
it was so over the top for that
Yeah,
scene.
I would probably I can't give him the benefit of the doubt because he is an Oscar-winning Best Actor. Like,
Yeah.
so you should know. Like, he wasn't like a guy that's sitting around really waiting to be coddled and coached by Scorsese. Like, he should
Yeah.
have some idea of what he's doing. So that was that was bad. And but
But
I'm
John
rooting for
Lithgow, John Lithgow did a great
yo.
job.
Yeah, yeah. I am rooting for Brandon Fraser though. So bounce back from
Yeah.
that one, buddy. This movie could have been a half hour shorter, if not more, and it would have been just as good. And I don't know what parts of it, and I've said that on a few of these reviews of these really long movies. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what they could have cut out. Like, I have no suggestions on that because it didn't have too much. Like, I think just some of the scenes of her, the timeline of her getting these injections and stuff like that. That the things that he's doing to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe cut a little bit of that out. Like, we get it, what was going on. There was a lot of that drug out for a really long time. It's funny though when the doctors are who is it? Who are they looking at? I'm trying to remember. I think it's her, his wife, and he's like, "Quick, we need 2 milligrams of heroin." Like the old time doctor stuff they used to use.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Have
really?
you still not seen Tombstone?
No.
Oh man, you gotta get to Tombstone. You gotta get to
Yeah.
lots of poppy mentions in Tombstone.
Yeah. And there's just some crazy scenes that it's a period piece. So they're having a parade, and there's just
Hmm.
like a troop of Klansmen just walking through the middle of
Yeah.
town, and he's like, "Oh, hey, buddy!" Like it's the local dentist or something. Like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" He's like the Grand Wizard, or whatever. It's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy stuff going on in that time. There's a great scene that I love where he's in the house of the guy that married his sister-in-law, and then after
Oh,
she
you're
died,
taking another one of mine.
married his other sister-in-law, and he's just like, "I just don't like you.
I
Like you
just
just
don't
don't
like it.
want." Yeah, yeah,
That was one of the best acted scenes
yeah. That was
because
great.
I almost feel like we've all had that moment with somebody that we want to say like, but we can't because we've got to be cordial with each other, and he just says it.
Yeah,
Jim, I just don't like you.
I just don't like you. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Your face. You've
Yeah,
got a punchable face. That's not
yeah.
what he
And
says,
doesn't he
but
say something to the tone of "I don't like talking to you"?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Did I do something to offend you? It's a great scene, and I wonder if that was 100% scripted, or they got to like they played with that a little bit. You know?
So I was just reading something on Google that said De Niro and Scorsese grew slightly tired of Leonardo DiCaprio improving.
Really?
Yeah, ad libbing.
I get that. I can see it. The I know the lead actress who plays Molly is supposed
Lily
to be
Gladstone.
Lily Gladstone is supposed to be like a front runner for best actress for this
Well, she
movie.
killed it.
She was good,
You didn't
but
like it.
I don't think this character offered a range of. She had the moments, but I don't know. Yeah, I okay. I'll thinking back on it now, I might have to give her kudos. It was good. It was good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. Um, I think it was just yeah, like Josh was saying, is had its slow moments. Started out a little slow, but I give it a pop two.
Okay.
Still, for a
So
great movie, yeah.
yeah, I gave it a pop three. Just I don't want to bury the lead. I thought it was fantastic. Scorsese will typically win me over with his what's the word I'm looking, ancillary things that he does within his movie, right? Because I think the sound mixing right away just blew me away. Like the
Mm.
sounds of the birds and the wind and the trees rustling, and I was like, wow, they did such a great job of gathering these sounds and mixing it into the film. So, and it
Mm.
wasn't overpowering. How sometimes we have like you want to hear the actors' voices and the dialogue in the scene, but the soundtrack or the sounds in the background is just overpowering and distracting. I felt sound mixing was amazing. Costume design was probably
Right.
unbeatable. I don't
Yeah.
see this losing costume design unless there's some crazy Lord of the Rings style epic movie that comes out
Yeah.
between now and then.
Mm.
Costume design was impeccable. Scene design, the scene design was a phenomenal. Like they took you right back to 1920s. Everything about that town was 1920s. The camera work, the long shots, the single shots, the tracking scenes, the camera work was phenomenal. The score was very good. The score kept the pacing of the movie pretty well, but Brandon Fraser did throw me off. Anna was also kind of a heavy-handed job there. The older sister
Oh
of
yeah.
Molly,
Yeah.
that was pretty heavy-handed. I will say, I think Lily Gladstone's going to win the Oscar, and I think we're in for an Oscar moment. I don't want to say what I
Oh
think
yeah.
it'll be, but
Oh
I
yeah.
think she's going to win, and I think we're in for a moment there.
Mm.
I think there's going to be a lot of grandstanding at this year's Oscars because I think there's going to be a lot of commentary to talk about
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
and I think we're going to hear it. But I think that I'm looking forward, out of everything else, to her winning, so I can hear what she has to say. Jesse Plemons was mild. I felt. I
I
didn't.
liked him.
Did you?
I liked it, but I don't feel like he did anything spectacular. Like, but he was
No.
good.
I was gonna say I found the native FBI agent, and I can't remember his name, so I apologize. I thought he did a much better job. I thought he was great when he walks up to a gentleman that was a character that you will all see once you see the film, that is very hesitant to be a part of what Leonardo DiCaprio's character Ernest and King, Robert De Niro's character, were doing. He walks up to him and says, "Don't make a scene. don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like
Mm-hmm.
so, it was so well acted, that scene. I felt even the gentleman, I don't even know the gentleman either, with the mustache, when he walks up to him, just even his reaction, like that was one of the more perfect
Yeah.
scenes in the movie. If you're paying attention to the kids playing in the background, him washing the moonshine bottles and the wife staring at him out of the, I was like, wow, that scene was so impeccably shot
Mm-hmm.
and well acted. But yeah, I did think that John Lithgow was much better as far as the lawyers were concerned. I thought it was hilarious when you look at the jury and it was all white men, old white
Yeah.
men, just
Yep.
pop. Martin Scorsese did a great job closing out the film and letting us know that almost no one was really prosecuted to the full extent of their
No.
crimes in
No.
this, and that they're still seeking justice to this day in Osage for some of the murders. I thought Robert De Niro might get a late career Oscar here for supporting actor. I don't know who he's going to be up against. Maybe Matt Damon from Oppenheimer at this point.
Or Robert Downey Jr.
I
was
think
great in
Dumb Money
Oppenheimer.
might get a couple nods. Like Dano might be in it for Best Actor, but I don't think he's going to win. Who'd you say?
Robert
Oh,
Downey
for
Jr.
Oppenheimer? Yeah, you
Yeah.
might be right. For supporting actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have got me there, sir. But again, just the some of the quotes. It's just like Tulsa. It's just like Tulsa.
Yeah.
Running through the
Yeah.
streets. I, I am so mad at you because you stole the Seacham. I just don't like you.
Yeah.
There's a ton of references. If you're not paying attention, you're gonna have to watch it twice, and it's a long watch, three and a
Oh
half
yeah.
hours. But there are so many references in this film, and if you don't have a tough stomach, it is a terribly sad ending. Uh, but yes, for me, popcorn and three. And now on to lighter things. Let's throw it over to Josh for what was his drunk classic.
In the Mouth of Madness.
In the mouth, in someone's mouth, and they're mad. All right, throw it over to Josh.
All right, dude. In the Mouth of Madness. This was my movie, my pick, my drunk classic. I'm just gonna get into it. I got some notes, bullet points. What the hell is up with the intro? Why did we play this like semi-heavy metal riff, like faux metal riff, and then just show printing presses like running? Like this isn't Keaton in newspaper, you know what I mean? But really, like it had no place. It was so strange. I don't know if it was trying to throw you off in some way. A lot of the movie is. I don't know. But this is definitely Tales from the Crypt vibe. I said initially that this movie, I said this movie scared me as a kid, and it really did. I saw it 1 3/4 times, and I just remember being terrified of it. And then now seeing it as an adult, I'm thinking, barely remember any of this movie. Maybe I just blocked it out because I do remember it like being very scary to me as a kid. I don't know. Maybe it was the the Cthulhian, the Lovecraftian vibe. I'd never heard of or seen that. Like this idea of just all these infinite monsters, just like, I don't know. Something about that was freaky to me. And now it's funny because Lovecraftian stuff is everywhere. Mostly because it's public domain. But this pseudo Stephen King type who's creating this world like Dark Tower style, and I don't know. I think the whole thing is pretty cool. The movie's interesting to me. I'm interested mostly in the fact that like every element of it was kind of like the greatest hits of the book series. The book series we don't really go into, and there's no real explanation as to why the innkeeper has her husband handcuffed to her ankle. We don't really talk about why that happens, and the progression of the monsters. What dictates that? We're not worried about that either. Like every aspect of it is not meant to make a lot of sense, and they don't care about explaining it to you either. It's just kind of a roller coaster ride. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, so that's cool. it is decades, seemingly decades ahead of the whole Lovecraftian vibe. Obviously, Lovecraft is pre 90s, but like lately, Lovecraftian stuff is pretty trendy indeed. Like there's a lot of board games, a lot of video games, a lot of movies, a lot of stories, TV shows. Anyway, entertaining movie for sure. Slow start, even though I don't think it realizes it's a slow start. I don't know. The minutia of the plot mechanics, they're not considered important, so it's kind of disappointing. Like I was saying earlier, I still really like the movie. Sam Neill was underacting. It was like over easy. I don't know. I give the movie a popcorn. I would still suggest the movie to anyone, just because it's kind of silly and very 90s and very of its time. Mixed reviews. Usually, a mixed review horror movie is either absolute garbage or it's kind of like, oh, you don't get it. I think it's neither one of those. So I don't understand what's happening. Popcorn. Yeah.
All right, so at the end of the day, Jordan, he gave it a popcorn. It was very Tales from the Crypty for me, but what did you think?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It was like an anthology bit. You know what I mean? Like it
Was
could have
kind of
just been
like,
a
yeah.
little bit shorter. It was
It
just
was
super.
only an hour and 30 minutes.
It could have been way shorter than that. It's a little convoluted. Not enough story development. It's just like throwing weird sci-fi stuff at you with
Mhm.
very little explanation. There's some really scary stuff in here. Some of the effects are pretty good for their time and hold up okay, but then there's some stuff that's just god awful.
Yeah.
There's really young Hayden Christensen is the creepy little boy riding the bike in the street.
Huh. Didn't
That's
know
Hayden
that.
Christensen. Yeah.
All right.
Uh, Funny scene. The guy is running by with an axe or something, and he just
Yeah.
stops and goes, "F you," and then just
Yeah.
keeps running. Like, all right, I guess.
What was the writer Sutter Kane?
Sutter Kane.
Are you a fan of Sutter Kane?
Definitely some silly moments. The whole
Yeah.
movie it was okay, but not my favorite. I give this a popcorn as well.
So I'm on the popcorn train also, and I thought to myself as the opening was going on, I was like, what would the opening be today? Just a journalist firing off tweets? Like,
Yeah,
because there's
yeah,
you're not going to see a printing press, so just like, is that the new intro? Sorry about the balls
yeah.
was a funny line. And why was he singing America the Beautiful while they were driving? That was, it's just weird to me.
It's a banger.
Linda Stiles, I thought was a really cool name, and the way he asked for a supervisor was a bit condescending and sexist. Sam Neill, his accent going in and out, was just chef's kiss,
Yeah,
amazing. And is it just me, or can you not watch him without thinking of Jurassic Park? Because I can't watch him without
yeah.
thinking of
No,
Jurassic Park.
definitely. Yeah. That's what I was thinking the whole time, for
Yeah.
sure.
It
Yeah,
was so hard to watch him, and just Jurassic
yeah,
Park just kept coming into my head.
yeah. The,
uh, yeah.
the theme song. Yeah.
Wait, where are the Velociraptors? Because they're coming, Sam. You're gonna have to run from more than the devil. Classic, like late '80s, early '90s, like let's touch the demon stuff going on. Josh definitely has a type. We've been over
Yeah,
this. He
yeah.
needs a mind bender to feel satiated and to feel like he is involved with this plot in this movie. And this definitely gives you aspects of a mind bender. Lots of Ghostbusters type stuff going on, like the very end with the melting door reminded me of the
Oh
ooze
yeah.
in
Mhm.
Ghostbusters 2. And even some of the villain play reminded me of Ghostbusters 2. So there's some Ghostbusters going on. For me, it was so silly. It was just so silly. And I just had to give it a popcorn. It was a little ridiculous, but sorry about the balls. All right. So, all that to say, Josh, what were you watching this week?
Up, I watched The Girl on the Train, the 2016 version, mind you. If you're not sure, this movie was remade recently in sort of what seems like a Bollywood type vibe. So you might get confused because Girl on the Train, I think it's 2016. This newer one is last year, I believe. And it's supposed to take place in London, which is true to the book, unlike the 2016 version, just saying. But most of the characters are Indian, which is true to London. But the camera cuts and the way the trailer seems, it seems very, I don't know what they call them in India, but telenovelas, very dramatic soap opera type. So it's strange because this is a murder mystery with very, very dark tones. So I don't know what's going on. That's neither here nor there. I'm talking about the 2016 version with some faces you might recognize. This movie definitely had a casting call for just absolutely beautiful women, but that fits into the plot, so it's nice. But anyway, also fantastic acting. But it's based off a book. I was told I watched it because Mom had just read the book and wanted to see what the movie's all about. It was really cool. It's a murder mystery. Well, homicide mystery. It's a whodunit, maybe. Sure, but unlike say Murder She Wrote type, the main character is not very confident and very observant per se. The main character is a drunk loser going through some real dark times. And because of this, becomes obsessed, has some tendencies towards doing like a peeping Tom thing. On her train rides, she kind of obsesses over these few houses, and there's a story that unfolds there. She notices someone committing an affair or something of that nature, and she kind of like connects her own dots, and it gets a little hairy, and then she has to help solve a murder in a way. Interesting, cool story. I was actively trying to find out the whodunit part, and I would say 3/4 of the movie through, I had it. Maybe halfway through, I was close. Good movie. I give that a popcorn and 1. I think anyone should watch it. It's kind of a downer movie, but it's got a good ending. It's an interesting take on the, we talk about this, strong female woman character that people supposedly are getting sick of. I don't know. I like it. I was just thinking about today, Captain Marvel with the "I'm just a girl," that song at the end when she has that fight scene, and so many people were like, really? Come on. I thought it was cool. Anyway, it's nice to see a movie where it's not a strong female lead. It's a female lead who feels like she's losing her mind and is going through the deepest, darkest. And this is something I've been through too in this sort of sense. And so that's, interesting. I liked it a lot. Back to you, jerks.
All right, Josh, thank you for that review of Girl on the Train. I haven't seen that since it came out, and I remember
I've never seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, is it worth a watch, you think?
Yeah, I agree with Josh. It's worth a watch. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Derailed, but more focused on the characters than Derailed was. Derailed was like very much about the story. So,
is Girl on the Train the sequel to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Is that no? Okay, I've never seen that
That's
either.
the girl that kicked the hornet's nest, I believe. And then the next one, it's a trilogy, and I remember them being just deadly boring.
Okay, yeah, I've never seen those either, and I never really had the interest to. But
I tried to get through Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I was super bored, so I just watched it in pieces. And then Hornet's Nest, also boring. So it's just kind of like they're sloggers. Yeah. But let's talk about what I was watching. So I watched Old Dads on Netflix, the new Bill Burr film, right? Bill Burr?
Yep.
And it was not good. So I did end up giving it a pop +1 because there are funny scenes that just make you laugh. It's a lot of commentary on entitlement in today's world, what's going on in the landscape of today when it comes to are we overly sensitiving our culture? I know sensitiving isn't a word, but are we a little too sensitive about things that maybe aren't that serious? Right. And some of the things he regrets doing, and it's your typical Bill Burr humor, oh man, I've learned, and it was fine. That part. Lisa Loeb was good. I thought Lisa Loeb was one of the better parts of the movies. And you say you only feel when you need to, but it just wasn't funny. For most of it, there are funny parts, right? But most of the movie, which I'm expecting to be funny, isn't funny, right? And you've got kind of the jokes about how people raise their kids now, and they're like they're free to express themselves. And in your head, you're like that little kid like needs to be drugged to the bathroom, like I was when I was a child. But I know that's wrong. Before everybody jumps on my back, like calm down, breathe, do those breathing techniques you try to get all of us to do. But it was just okay. It wasn't great. It was kind of like, okay, I've seen it before. I get it. I agree with some of the stuff. I disagree with some of this stuff. And here we are at the end, and cool, right? Lots of midlife crisis stuff, I guess, that I can't relate to, and I can't relate to the fatherly part of it because I don't have kids. So it was just okay. Next film I watched was If You Were the Last. And this was a good film all the way until the last half hour. And it stars Anthony Mackie and Zoe Chow, two astronauts that are trapped drifting through space, and lots of Wes Anderson-esque set design going on here. Lots of cool transitions with like paper mache type spaceships. Even them crashing to Earth is like a paper mache type spaceship. And I found that good. Like I thought that was a good part of the movie. And honestly, if they had ended it after the first hour, it would have been fun. It would have been a good movie. I would have given it a pop too. And the funny conundrum they're having while they're up in space isn't necessarily how do we get home. They've kind of accepted they're probably going to die in space. Yeah. But the conundrum is, should we or shouldn't we have sex when we're both married? and that was funny. It was an interesting element. Right? It's kind of like, okay, cool. We don't have to broach the subject or topic that we might die in space. We can just resign ourselves to believing, okay, we're going to die. And now we need to decide, like, what creature comforts should we indulge in, before we die? And it was really just, should we have sex? And they start like describing it scientifically, like all the benefits of skin to skin contact and all this stuff, because they're two scientists trapped in space. And it was really funny and interesting, and kind of, I even wrote at one point, wow, it's a really cute story. But then the last half hour happens, and I'm like, why? This is so dumb. Like, let them die in space, drifting away. That would have been a great ending. They managed to find their way, back to their loved ones, which just creates an absolutely awful ending. Just, bleh. It was just disgusting. It was so bad, right? I mean, Anthony Mackie and his wife have a decent storyline going on, but Zoe Chow's whole story is just trashed out. It was just bad, right? And I'm not going to spoil the ending. I hope I didn't already spoil the ending, but it was just, it shrank it all the way down to a poppin' one, right? It just went down a full beer rating. It was a good, fun movie all the way to the end. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Jordan. What were you watching?
Awesome. So I kept up with some horror films. I got to watch something I hadn't seen yet, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. I think it came out in the pandemic,
Netflix?
Limited release. Yeah, on actually, no, I had to rent this one. Wasn't on Netflix here.
Oh, I think I watched it on an airplane, to be honest.
It was very campy. Bunch of super recognizable B-list actors. They get all of the Resident Evil universe characters, like from every game. They just squeeze them all into this movie. There's some questionable casting choices. Like if you're looking, at the source, if you're looking at,
sinks right into my head. It's like,
Leon. If you're looking at the actual source, like the video games, some of them just don't correlate to the video game characters exactly. Like the guy from Umbrella Academy, the big muscle guy being Albert Wesker. It's like, he was never like a big hulking muscle guy. Like that wasn't
in the video game.
Yeah. Some really bad acting.
It was bad writing.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Next, the dialogue was terrible, terribly written. It's set in 1998. It shows the whole initial outbreak. It's funny. One of the good scenes is they're in the diner and the waitress lady is serving them coffee or whatever, and she's just bleeding from her eye.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you all right?" She's like, "Oh yeah, that's been going on for a couple of weeks." It's like, "Do you want to go to the doctor?" "Nah, it'll be fine. I'll be all right." Like, dude, you're actively bleeding from your eyeballs. Like,
maybe you should go to the doctor.
Yeah, it's probably nothing.
Probably not something you should rub some dirt on.
Yeah. just horrible visual effects. I give this one a solid popcorn.
Solid popcorn. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And next, I watched the sequel to a movie I watched last week,
Okay.
Jeepers Creepers 2. And I know, I know last week I said that this sequel holds up. It absolutely does not. It's really bad. I hadn't seen the sequel in a really long time.
Yeah.
And the scares, the monster, all of that is pretty decent. Some really scary stuff going on with him, but just
Yeah.
everything else about this was just awful. It's just
I remember it being really corny, like really, really, really corny.
yeah, it's like a teenage angsty drama that takes place, with this monster hunting them,
Yeah.
all within the confines of a school bus.
With the
So there's
football team and the cheerleaders, right? If I remember correctly.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of homophobia, and I'm not quite sure what year this is supposed to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe early 2000s, mid 90s. I don't know. But yeah, just a lot of, good old homophobia in there, racism going on, all that stuff. Very, very overt.
Yeah.
The dialogue is terrible. Exposes a little bit more about the creature, but it's not enough that you would want in a sequel. Like, give me some breadcrumbs of something, like some
Yeah.
more lore into him.
Like a little bit of an origin story.
Yeah, they just keep introducing these quirks that this monster has with no explanation for them at all. I think it begins very well. The opening scene is terrifying with the scarecrow, where he's pretending up there on the thing, pretending to be a scarecrow, and he flies
Yeah.
away with the kid. And the ending is really good as well for this one. But it's not enough to bring it above a popcorn. Popcorn.
Okay, so another popcorn.
Yeah.
Horror movies are taking a hit today.
Yeah.
All right, so I think it's time for the drunk classic, right?
Yeah.
It is the last. Well, Jordan gets to be the arbiter on this. He gets to decide because he's got next week's drunk classic. But they made an agreement without me here, and we're gonna stick to it. So October is horror month, and Josh said, "Haven't we had enough of John Cusack already?" Or was that you, Jordan? Which one? One of
It
you?
was Josh.
It was Josh.
But I can agree with that.
Well, no, we haven't.
Yeah.
Because we're going to do Identity as
Oh.
my drunk classic. It was a film, I haven't seen it probably since I was in high school, maybe college, but I remember thinking to myself, please don't judge me and my movie opinions based on 18-year-old me. You would not want to be judged by 18-year-old you unless you're lying about what 18-year-old you was watching. Which there are people do that, right? They want to be all highfalutin and when I was watching Citizen Kane when I was in high school. Shut up, liars. Anyway, Identity. I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, this is such a great horror film. What a great twist! How different is this? It's not your typical slasher. It's not your typical story. Not your typical urban legend callback, but." I found it different and I found it interesting, so I'm going to give it a rewatch this week for our drunk classic. How do you feel about that?
I've seen it. It's a good movie. I remember it being a really solid twist. It's basically the movie Split totally ripped it off.
Yeah, right? I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, Split did 100% rip it off. Yeah. But okay, cool. I'm excited about it. And of course, because we are still in scary, scary, spooky October, we're going to watch Five Nights at Freddy's for our butter on top.
Yep. Demon Chuck E. Cheese.
So I already reviewed the Nicolas Cage Wacky Willie's Wonderland that you and Josh were quick to tell me rip this off. So we'll see how Five Nights at Freddy's does up against it. I will say, based on the trailer, I was like, wow, this is exactly the same movie as Wacky Willie's Wonderland. But we will see. Jordan, where can they reach us?
At Popcorn and Beers on Twitter.
On Twitter. We're not stopping. We're going to keep sharing, and you're going to keep watching whether you like it or not. No, I'm just kidding. We appreciate you all joining us at the SadFan Podcast Network each and every week on YouTube. Please continue to join in with comments and let us know what we missed or what we should be watching. As always, Thank you for watching. We'll see you at the movies. You bring the popcorn, and we've got the beer.